Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really excited because today I'm interviewing Kimberly Carter. Kimberly is a coach, a speaker, and an author. So hi, Kimberly.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Pleasure, me too. So there may be some people watching who already know you or a little bit about you, but I'm just really curious to know, what were you doing before you became a coach, and what was it that had you go into coaching?
Okay, so before I became a coach, and what led me there was my time as a business consultant, just working with different people and businesses, as well as my time spent helping mentor the youth. I did community and church programs where I was leading small groups, co-teaching and teaching. And so through that journey, I discovered that I personally needed to uncover and unwrap my voice. Through that, every step that I took, I started writing down, blogging, and documenting it. And I realized, like, if it's me having these issues, other women may be having these issues as well. And that's what launched me into coaching.
Brilliant. Yeah. And I know that you specialize in self-confidence, building people's self-confidence. Yeah.
I do.
Are you working specifically with women, or you work with men as well?
Up until this point, I've worked with women specifically because those are most of the issues that I can personally relate to and things that I've struggled with. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. So I know that before this recording, we were talking about racism, weren't we? And I'm just really curious. Obviously, there is a massive problem with systemic racism. And I'm just really interested to know, from your point of view, Kimberly, how you think that's impacted Black Americans.
Well, first of all, we do have to understand that racism is institutional, it's cultural, and it's interpersonal patterns that have been set up that creates a disadvantage for anyone that's other. And so the system has been set up to benefit, for example, white Americans, which puts everybody else at a disadvantage in a dominant power structure. So you definitely have to start there in that understanding. And unfortunately, there are a lot of ways that our self-confidence becomes damaged, as you know, over the course of our lives. And as you can imagine, for Black Americans, constantly receiving a message of inferiority, a message of otherness, a message of you're over there and we're over here, has just wreaked havoc over the years and over like the centuries, if you will, because this isn't a new issue. And so those disadvantages that Black Americans have experienced compared to our white American counterparts, as you can imagine, has just totally ravished our self-esteem in a lot of ways. And you have to be intentional to be countercultural with your personal approach to building your self-confidence and self-esteem.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because to be honest with you, Kimberly, that I have so much to learn. So this is so great for me. So I understand actually that there is a connection between racism and our immune system. Obviously, we've talked about the fact that it affects people's self-confidence, clearly. Yes. But can you say more about that?
I can. Thank you for asking about that too, specifically. So if you take the current COVID-19 crisis that the entire world is working through right now, that COVID-19 attacks the lungs. And as you know, the lungs are connected to your ability to fully take in life, to breathe, to feel like you're alive. And so problems in the lungs are connected to not feeling worthy of living. And so take the messaging of racism that has been aimed at Black Americans and Blacks worldwide, if you will, and you mix that with this pandemic of COVID-19, and you have a twofold attack, if you will, against Black Americans. And we're seeing it in the numbers. There are reports coming out highlighting that COVID-19 has wreaked more havoc on people of color in America. I'm not sure how it is worldwide, but we definitely have the proof that that's, racism mixed with the pandemic is killing us. And so you can take the lynching that happened to George Floyd recently as an example of this. It was a culmination and a very clear picture of racism meets the pandemic. When he said that he couldn't breathe, that resonated throughout America and the world with Blacks, because not being able to breathe, both physically and, if you will, metaphorically, has been wreaking havoc on us for a long time.
Wow. Yes, I never thought about the, metaphorically, but totally, yeah. So how then can someone who's Black, or, a person of colour who maybe has faced racism their entire life, build a healthy relationship with themselves, with their self-confidence in the society that we're in? Do you actually have some practical tips or advice?
I do. I did mention definitely being countercultural. You have to take intentional steps to just make sure that you first understand that if you're attacked as a person of color, as a Black person, then you're living in a constant state of fight, flight, or freeze. And so you have to start with self-care and relaxation, because anything else that you try to do on top of it, this state of fight or flight, isn't going to work. And so your self-care definitely begins with relaxing, getting into what you consider a safe space. I teach my clients, one tip that I teach them is to set their alarm clocks to a silent alarm on their phone and have an affirmation. And so for Black Americans or Black people worldwide, that affirmation, when it goes off, could just be, I am worthy, I matter, my life is important. And you just set that silent alarm to go off throughout the day. And it's just a small reminder that, hey, let me remind myself to breathe and to release, and that I matter. And so that's another tip I would say is definitely connect. Like, we're having this conversation, and I appreciate it, to a very welcoming and affirming community of people who want to understand your plight, who want to be an ally with you. So those are a couple of tips I would give.
Brilliant. And I absolutely know the power of affirmation. And I know that as human beings, whatever color we are, we're actually affirming stuff all the time, aren't we? It's neither negative or positive. So let's make it positive. And I think, having an alarm set for that is such a brilliant idea, and so simple. So how can white people, like myself, white people worldwide, work together with Black people to eradicate racism and so that really we can have a world where it doesn't matter what color you are, we can live together and work together peacefully?
Well, I would say that step one for white Americans or white people worldwide is that you need to get an education about it. You have to seek out this information, understand the difference between racism, social justice, and diversity. Those are not the same, but they're used interchangeably, and that can be confusing at times. And so, for example, social diversity and social justice aren't the same. So social justice requires not only the recognition of social group differences, but an understanding of how social group differences are connected to social inequalities. So just understanding small things like that. You can Google this topic. The work has already been done. You have scholars, activists, and you have, researchers, books already written, podcasts. And so just going out of your way to connect in that way to understand. And then I would say step two, understand that the world, the country you live in is a house of sorts. And so you inherited that. You didn't necessarily build the foundation to that, but when you inherit it, when it was passed to you and you benefit from living in it, whatever was placed in that foundation is still there. And so just understanding it like that, if you had a foundational problem with your home, you would come in and have it repaired. And so if you start thinking about it, not like you did something wrong, but like you inherited something that needs to be repaired. And then I would say, finally, just like we're having this conversation, listen to someone who has that experience without taking offense. Allow them that space to just speak it in a way that's authentic to them, and you just receive it. And that's how you start building solidarity.
Wow, I love that, Kimberly. And I think that we're all responsible for the world we live in. We are responsible. That's my personal view. So, you know, you've said a lot of great stuff, and you know, I could talk to you for a long time and find out so much more about you. But I would just really thinking about people that are watching, you know, maybe who are curious about what you do and perhaps want to know more, or might possibly want to work with you. Do you have an introductory? Do you do a kind of discover session, or do you have? What is it that you do?
I do. I have that. It's on my website at kimberlycarter.live. We'll post that so that everyone can see the link, but it's kimberlycarter.live. It's currently under construction. I've been having that restructured, but yeah, you can still come in, leave your email address, and when it launches, you'll get the email.
Brilliant. Obviously, you're on LinkedIn as Kimberly Carter, and
Yeah.
are you on Facebook, Kimberly?
Not like through my business. I'm on Facebook though, Kimberly Carter, but definitely find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Kimberly Carter Live.
Fantastic. Hey, Kimberly, thank you so much for your pearls of wisdom and for taking the time out to talk to me today. I've absolutely loved listening to you.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we built this moment.
Pleasure.